Hey y'all, it's been a bit. This is Tyler Has Words. Want to talk about No Country for Old Men. Now that I'm an old man, I feel like I understand this movie a lot better than I used to. And maybe that's ironic considering the theme of the film, or maybe it's just a fact that I'm old and there's the word old in the movie. Who cares? Anyways, you get through the movie. I want to say I see this movie as like a completely different film than I did when I was younger. And it's funny the way you can actually see something at different points in your life. They're actually different movies because who you are is, reflected into what you're watching or reading, and then that's reflected back to you. And that cross pollination kind of happens, that it's unique in any time and place in your life. So really enjoyed watching it this time even more than I did when I was younger. And I think it's because I've kind of I just kind of understand the wear and tear of life a little bit. And not that this movie, let's just go over the movie real quick. It's spoilers. It's not about the greatest. It's an incredibly great movie, but I'd say it's more awesome for reasons of, I'm gonna say form over plot. Actually, I think the plot drags a bit in the middle. I get a little disinterested and feel like it runs aground a bit during the end of the middle act. Not like runs aground like a horrible, like a horrible movie that's made by, hack amateurs. I mean, it's Coen Brothers, just so we get that out of the way. And in case you didn't know, and it is based on a Cormac McCarthy novel, a writer who I've come to love in the last 5-6 years. I'm rereading Blood Meridian right now. He's got a book called The Crossing. He did The Road. Many movies that you've probably seen are based on books that he's written. An incredible writer. Again, very much not as plot-oriented as he is style. Opens with the monologues make the movie, and the voiceovers make the movie. It begins with the vistas of this wide-open Texas range, and I think it takes place in the 70s, but it really doesn't matter. It's almost like a timeless deal. And I really think the theme comes across from the get-go. There's an aging sheriff, and he's about to get to the end of his tenure, and he wants to... I think you can already tell he's longing for some meaning, and he's struggling to come to terms with the violence that he sees in the modern world, the world that he's currently residing in. And I think that that's probably what I think he actually, we'll get to how this is cyclical and kind of what this story really is all about, and why I think this story is actually very biblical, in at least the Ecclesiastic Solomon tradition. Some people say that Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes. I tend to just go with that because I haven't heard any other good theories. So why don't we just go with that? But anyways, we'll get back to that in a second. The sheriff has these several discussions about the nature of evil and how it's like this new incarnation. The main bad guy, played by Javier Bardem, is just this like... He seems like a respawning and like a new form, like this nascent evil that hasn't been in the universe before. But he's just an evil guy, and the fact that he doesn't have like seemingly good reasons makes him scary. He's truly kind of a terrifying character. But point is, when faced with all of this evil, what does the sheriff do? And that's basically the running theme that goes through this story. There's the actual plot, which is the Josh Brolin character with the money. And I could go into do a video on his plot and why it works kind of as a parallel to the more internal struggle of the sheriff, but whatever. I can do that later. There's a dialogue at the end where, the shootout happens. Actually, it's an interesting thing because the actual, I would say, plot, whatever, let's say the climax apotheosis doesn't really happen until, it happens about 2 hours into the movie, but you don't see it. After all the chasing and wandering and questioning and whatever, you see kind of the aftermath, but you don't really see what went down, and it doesn't really matter. Our quote unquote one of our protagonists is dead, and we know why. He got himself in too deep with some serious evil. Now, the nature of evil is the problem that confronts the sheriff in the end, and what does he do? He goes to somebody that's already been confronted with the same problem, and it's a guy who has been crippled by a bullet of some criminal. And the man in the wheelchair, the cripple, says to the sheriff, "Why are you quitting? Why are you quitting?" Tommy Lee Jones is the sheriff quitting, and Tommy Lee Jones says, "I don't get it anymore. I don't understand it. It ain't something like it ain't. I'm not cut out for it, and it's coming too fast, and the wave is, rushing over my head." Something like that. I can't remember the exact quotes. But the man in the wheelchair, who's obviously been wounded and taken down literally by the world and the evils of the world, says that you can't, the world's going to keep coming no matter what you do, and to think it won't is vanity. And I think when he said that on this time watching it, I thought of Ecclesiastes, because in Ecclesiastes it says life is vanity and it's chasing after the wind, and to ask a lot of questions, which No Country for Old Men asks a ton of questions, and I find it to be a kind of inscrutable movie, and Ecclesiastes to be one of the most inscrutable books of the Bible. It almost seems like it, I'm just being honest, it seems like it doesn't belong in this book of stories and hope and, context, and giving you, a lot of backdrop or whatever. There's this just random book called Ecclesiastes that's just, it's almost like just a big gut punch. Now, in the greater context of the Bible, it works, and there's many reasons for that, but I'm no theologian, and this ain't no religion show. But as far as No Country for Old Men, it's also a film that asks questions. And I think the answer, more than anything, is that you do your part when you can, and you accept that when you get old, as you get older, you kind of get, the world doesn't get harder necessarily, but I think we just get tired and kind of whittled down by the fight, and therefore when it keeps coming, it feels harder, the fight that is. And I think that's the probably most sober way to look at it, and why it's not that the world is changing, and it's not that the world and that you can't expect the world to change for you, because that again is vanity. And I love that line when he says that. So I think that's it. I think that's the lesson that we learn, that we don't, if there is a lesson, I know that the big question is, what do you do in the face of the oncoming, incessant and steady and relentless churning of bad and conflict? And the answer is just keep standing up to it. And when you get old, even though it's harder, keep standing. I think that's it. So I think it asks big questions, and that's about as good of an answer as I can come up with. But I think a good thing to do if you're really looking for some sober examining of the human soul and its place in the universe, have a watch of No Country for Old Men. pull out the old Ecclesiastes, see what old King Solomon has to say, and then you might need a beer. Cheers. As Tyler has words. Subscribe, like. I'm going to do some more videos this month, and I really hope you guys hit the buttons and do the things. Still finishing up these 3 novels and doing a lot of other stuff. I'll put some links below for some of my other books that I've already written. Just be well and see you after.